She calls me at 5 a.m., crying and begging me to come get her. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Arazone Stories. Today we have a complete story where this woman got divorced because of her affair, and after the divorce, her new life is at stake. Let's see what actually happened. Our marriage was pretty awesome. We worked hard at it, supported each other to pursue our careers, never fought about the big things like money, parenting, or even decorating the house. A lot of our friends were jealous of our relationship, to be quite honest. I'd say the beginning of the end was when we had kids. She had an idea about what being a mom was going to be like, and reality slapped her in the face pretty hard. It was harder than she expected. After our second was born, she had to go get her breasts done. I had no part in the decision, it was solely for her. But it provided her with a false sense of self-esteem that started this snowball into full-blown narcissism. I personally avoid dating women with fake breasts now strictly, because I've found this attitude to be really common. I remember then she started to come at me for really random things. I always shared all the work in the home and kids. I'm pretty sure I changed as many if not more diapers than she did. But all of a sudden she'd refuse to put my clothes in the laundry when she'd be doing laundry. She started to call me controlling because I was trying to get our finances under control. Just lots of really random. I'm tired of this kind of reactions to things she had never voiced an issue with before. Most, and she'll admit it now, were just excuses to start fights. Looking back, it just really became apparent that she felt she was now the most important person in the family, and what she wanted came first. Went from being a team to the kids and I just being a support group for her. Our goal was to keep her happy, and if we didn't, well then the silent treatment or snide comments were on their way. Now to the main story. She had an affair 6 years ago with the husband of my, at the time, co-worker. We had all become close friends and partied a lot together. The discovery of the affair and my wayward spouse realization that her partner wasn't going to leave his wife threw her into a spiral. Ran away from our home, left me grief-stricken, with 2 kids and no way to contact her. Well, a week later she calls me at 5 a.m., crying and begging me to come get her. I do. I had gone on stress leave from work at this time. I end up at a seedy motel picking her up where she had holed up for the week, sleeping with every dealer she knew to feed her stuff habit. This was a new issue. She was a mess. I get her home, and I call my friend who is a nurse to come and check on her. She's in the throes of drug-induced psychosis. Gotta get her to the emergency room and get her detoxed. I leave my kids with family. Thank God we had just moved to a town to be close to them. Get her to the hospital and stay next to her side for close to 4 days while she's detoxing. I don't know if I even felt a single feeling during this period. Finally get her home, and she basically spends 3 weeks in bed. I'm pretty much a zombie, doing my best to just make sure the kids are fed and to school and back. Unbeknownst to me, she's still in active communication with her partner at this time, through of all things, the Pinterest messaging system. Anyway, her family convinces her she needs to go to rehab, but of course, it can't be any rehab. She decides on a $20,000 a month facility. I refuse to pay that, so she conned her grandmother to do it. She ends up there. 1.5 weeks in, she calls me and says she wants a divorce because she has learned that all her actions are my fault. So okay, I'll tell the kids who are already losing their minds that mom isn't coming back. Well, she gets discharged, realizes being on her own is tough, and begs me to come back, and that we can fix things. Me looking at 16 years of marriage with someone I truly loved, and have 2 beautiful children with decides, yeah, let's try. I convinced myself it was the drugs that enabled all this behavior, and now that she's clean, I'll have my wife and mother of my children back. Looking back, this was the one thing I would have done differently. Fast forward 18 months of trying to reconcile. She refuses to put any work into and figures that because I was willing to work on our marriage, that meant that all was forgiven and water under the bridge. As every betrayed spouse knows, that's not how this works. At the 18-month mark, I give up and ask her to leave. She easily agrees. Well, within a week of her moving out, I get a message from her old partner's wife that they are communicating again, and that he just told her he's leaving her, while they are all on a family vacation in Jamaica. So there's marriage number 2 destroyed. I also get to find out that they have been communicating for the length of our reconciliation period. That was a gut punch. They move in together immediately, and just like that, my children have a stepdad and his son has a stepmom. Abrupt and jarring, don't even begin to describe what it was for all of us. Present time, 4 years later, and the crux of post. Their relationship has imploded. It was always toxic. He had anger issues. She wants everything her own way. Cops would get involved, which would then get me involved because of the kids. Silver lining. The majority of it was never around my kids. They say a few arguments, but that's it. She's now kicked him out because she found out he was seeing some 23-year-old girl behind her back. But not to be outdone, she'd been sleeping with his best friend, and she is now trying to date him. This, of course, has thrown him right off the ledge, and she's now got a restraining order against him. The cops being called multiple times to her new man's house, and it has caused him to be evicted. I get to sit and watch this all, and just shake my head. I'm far enough along that I'm not shouting with glee over this, but I will admit to some petty giddiness. I'm safe and happy. My kids are safe and happy, and the consequences of 6 years of decisions are coming home to roost. Looking back, I can see the red flags. In the moment, I ignored them, mostly because I didn't recognize them as such. But on the whole, I wish I could give you a point-by-point rundown of the red flags, but honestly, most of them by themselves weren't red flags. It wasn't until hindsight let me tally them all up and see it as a whole that I could spot them. It never ceases to amaze me how people can destroy lives and not contemplate what they've done or are doing. It shows a level of selfishness beyond belief. I'm sorry he had to go through all this, but I admire his resilience and wish him and his kids continued success and peace. Some similarities in my story. Your story shall continue on, and will probably have a couple of hurdles with the kids as they get older. Not necessarily bad either. You sound like you have taken account of your own life, and you are staying true to yourself now. It's amazing how over so much time in a relationship, small red flags just become normal. Sometimes you'll tell a friend or write it out, and you will get a glimpse of how not normal things are, but return to life and press on. After you remove yourself, you start to realize all the little hints and nuances that make you cringe. As far as the kids, they will grow and come into their own emotions about their family. It can go a lot of ways. For me, my oldest really encouraged our separation and felt that I was the problem in the relationship. My second had my back and decided to live with me right away. My third stayed with mom because he was close with his sister. She is not my biological kid and didn't want to hurt his mom's feelings. My youngest stayed with me for 6 months, but his mom put up a stink when I wanted to move, so I gave him back to her. Fast forward a year and a half. My oldest lasted 6 months with her, moved into his girlfriend's parents' house so he could finish high school. He is coming to live with me when he graduated, so he can start college in the fall. My second still lives with me. My third is moving out of his mom's and starting high school with me. My stepdaughter is loyal to her mom, but does vent here and there about the nonsense over there. The little guy will stay with his mom and sister, but I predict on a few years he will want out too. As long as they are healthy and okay, I support whatever decisions they want to make. Once the 3 out of 4 are living with me, I will start the ball on the actual divorce. I don't want her to stifle their ambitions as retaliation when this thing becomes official. Stay the course. Things do have a way of working themselves out. A few days ago, I found out that a guy I used to date last winter had given me a fake last name, got married in early spring, and had been engaged living with his fiancée the entire time we were dating. And as we continued to hook up every now and then in the months following us no longer dating, he was able to hide his wife from me in a variety of ways that all added up to be a perfect scenario for him to continue to lead me on, and without me seeing a reason to ask many questions. For example, he was a coach and had weird work hours, like very early mornings and evenings after normal work hours, so many of our dates were lunch dates. He was also going through a messy custody hearing for his son that was scheduled for March 2022, so when he started to be busy a lot, I understood and didn't ask questions. He had told me he didn't have social media to avoid giving his ex any fuel at all for the hearing, so when I couldn't find him online, well, he had already told me why. At the time, there was no solid reason for me to distrust him, even if things sometimes felt a little off in my gut. At one point, I did question his interest in me when he didn't reply for a few days, and he told me sorry, busy weekend with my son. He would reassure me and apologize, so he had many chances to set me free even without coming clean. He could have just said, yeah, I'm not feeling it anymore, I wish you the best. And I feel so stupid for thinking what a great father he was for being so focused on his son when he had his weekends with him. He eventually was honest with me as the custody hearing got closer and told me that he needed to be focused on that and that he couldn't give me what I deserved in a relationship right now. When we stopped seeing each other regularly, we stayed in contact and occasionally slept together since we were both single, or so I thought. I even looked back through my calendar and we saw each other 2 days after his wedding weekend. I found out that he was married when I mentioned him at a business, and someone who worked there said they think he was their coach. I'm purposefully keeping that vague because when I confronted him, he tried to get me to tell him who it was that he coached who told me. I wasn't going to play that game. So we looked up his coaching profile to see if we were talking about the same person. And there he was, smiling with a different last name than what he had told me 10 months ago, with the description saying he likes to spend time with his wife, his son, same name he told me, and dog, same name he told me. More Googling at home brought up a wedding registry for a wedding in April 2022. Both of their Facebook profiles where they are in each other's pictures, and the house he lives in with the wife's name as the owner. I feel so disgusted, deceived, targeted, hurt, mad, sad, shocked. So, ladies and supporters of ladies, do I tell the wife? Part of me wants to, so that she isn't also being deceived by this guy and so he doesn't get away with it. But I also want to just be done with it, move on and never think about him again. I'm afraid to open a door that I can't close by involving myself more into his twisted life. I'm slightly concerned about his reaction if I tell him, like my own safety or that of my property since he knows where I live. Or if there's any other way a cruel and cunning person would get revenge that I'm not thinking of. Any advice or similar experiences? Thank you. After protecting myself and my identity in what ways I could, I told the wife. I found her number and texted her a brief, factual message that her husband cheated on her, the date we matched on Bumble, how I had no idea he was engaged or married, the fake last name and how he never mentioned her, but did mention other people in his life. I gave her a few screenshots to demonstrate that it went on over a series of months. She replied the next day thanking me. She said she was on her way to her parents' house and she was planning on filing for divorce as soon as possible. She had been suspicious after testing positive for HPV about a month ago, as I and you guys suspected from the house being only in her name. Apparently he is completely financially dependent on her, and everything he told me about having investments and small businesses is a lie. I also found out that in addition to a fake last name, he gave me a fake phone number too. She cautioned that he may try to retaliate once she gives him the news, and she will message me before she gives him the papers, so that I can go to a friend's house for a few days if I feel the need. It's been a stressful and emotional past few days. I'm upset that men like this exist. Proud of myself for telling her. Thankful to my friends and to all of you who encouraged me to tell her. Proud of her for leaving him. A little bit scared of what he will do. Thank you for doing the right thing for that woman. Way too many people say things like, don't get involved and she'll blame you, and she must magically know deep down. The world needs less of that and more honest, brave people like her.